we are already in the greatness of Yosef Hatzaddik, how from just being a slave trapped in jail, he became the viceroy of Egypt. And that the wording of the Torah, Hua Shalit, Hua Mashbir, he is the ruler, he's the one who's like the bread giver, the breadwinner for all the people. There was a famine literally all over. Everything that people stored away in the 7 years of plenty, especially in Egypt, everything went rotten, and they were forced to bend and submit to listen to Yosef. Even Pharoah was scared of Yosef. Rashi brings down. Right? So it was a time when literally Yosef, the Tzaddik, was literally like the ruler of the world. He was in charge. Right? And we go through Yosef's life, that he had faced tremendous opposition from his brothers who were all tzaddikim, and they wanted to kill him even, right? And all other things. Also, the final leaving of Egypt was only on condition that Moshe would take the coffin, the body, the bones, atzmot of Yosef. If it wasn't for the body of the coffin of Yosef that Moshe was carrying, the Red Sea would have never split. The Jews would have never left Egypt. We see this powerful theme of, specifically in Egypt, the rise and power of Yosef being the ultimate, like the Torah is telling us, in being the distributor and the viceroy and the leader of everyone, not just the Jews, Yaakov and his sons, the 70 souls, but even of all the Egyptian empire, which at that time was very big, because there was food only in Egypt. So Egypt in a way became like a world kingdom in a sense, right? And Yosef was at the top of all this. So we know Ma Shehaya Hu Sheyeh, that which was, there will be a type of repetition in the future. In other words, the story that we learn about what happened in Egypt with Yosef Hatzaddik, and then the eventual leaving of the Jews, that Moshe takes the body of Yosef in order to leave, there is a major parallel of that to what, God willing, we are going through. God willing, we're waiting for Mashiach to come, but we're going through this parallel, that there will, or there has already risen, will rise or has risen, a tzaddik of the caliber of Yosef Hatzaddik, who will be such a leader that people will feel in this spiritual famine, lo ra'av lalechem velo tzama lamayim ki'im lishmoa et divrei Hashem, not a famine of water, of thirst and of food, but rather a famine of people being hungry to hear the word of Hashem. In other words, true revelation of Torah insights that will bring people back to life. This is a parallel of, just like Yosef was the viceroy and the one giving the physical and you can say spiritual sustenance, there will be a tzaddik now, or there already is a tzaddik, who will also, before the final leaving of this Egypt that we're in, the exile, this final exile, will be a total viceroy, meaning that people will see that it will be impossible to survive this famine without the teachings and the insights and the inspiration of this tzaddik who parallels Yosef Hatzaddik. And just like Yosef Hatzaddik had major opposition from who? From other tzaddikim, but they weren't at the caliber of Yosef Hatzaddik, as illustrated in Yosef's dream, that they were all bowing down to Yosef Hatzaddik, all of his brothers, which actually came about to be true at the end. They all prostrated in Egypt before Yosef. So too, there will rise a tzaddik, or there has already risen a tzaddik now, before Mashiach comes, who will also, or has also, faced major opposition from who? Not from low-class people, from other tzaddikim. Big tzaddikim, but not at the caliber of this tzaddik, who can bring life and nourishment to the whole world with his teachings and everything. And in the end also, the leaving of this exile will parallel also what happened, that Moshe took the bones of Yosef Hatzaddik. It's an indication that this tzaddik also does not necessarily have to be physically alive. In fact, his grave is what's shining at this point. And just like Moshe had to take the bones of Yosef to bring the Jews in the Exodus to leave the exile, so too Mashiach, who is the parallel of Moshe, will have to also connect with the bones of this tzaddik, who is the stature of Yosef Hatzaddik, before the coming of Mashiach, which is the parallel of Moshe, to bring out the Jews. He'll need to attach himself to this tzaddik, who at the time will be in the format of being in a grave, like the bones as Yosef Hatzaddik. So this is just a hint of the ideas of the parshas at the end of the book of Bereshit, to the parallel of what we are anticipating and what we should be looking for in survival in this famine that we're going through today, as the key to make it and to leave the exile B'ezrat Hashem with the coming of Mashiach. Amen.